do you have a theory as to why Konaté has gone from being like such a good player last season, like in your playing career? Did you ever see anybody sort of dip to that level last year? This time last year, we could easily have a conversation about where Konaté ranks in the sort of pantheon of great Premier League defenders currently in the game. He's now got to a stage where I feel like he is actually comparable to being the most out of form. Have you ever experienced anything like this? I don't think I can think of a dip that is even close to being comparable.
You know what, Rory? I think as players, we all have one moment in our careers that we just can't believe it happened. Maybe it lasted for a few weeks or a few months. Obviously, the better player you are, the less it happens. But I think we always have one moment in our career where you go into a pitch and you feel like every little mistake you make ends up in a goal. And there'll be other times where you make a similar mistake and it doesn't end up a goal and no one remembers. And the lad's definitely going through that moment in his career, that one time that he will look back at when he's retired and think, oh, how did they get through that? But I've never been as sold on Konaté as some Liverpool supporters, I must say that. When people talk about sort of him being one of the best centre-backs in the league or in Europe, I believe a lot of Liverpool centre-backs look a lot better because they're playing against arguably one of the greatest centre-backs the Premier League has ever seen in Virgil van Dijk. So Virgil van Dijk, I think, has still been one of Liverpool's best players this season. But he probably hasn't quite been the Van Dijk of last season. I think that has a knock-on effect. And when I judge centre-backs, and maybe I judge them harsher because it was my position, I only talk about someone being a top centre-back if they're a leader. Now, I shudder to think what would happen to Liverpool if Van Dijk wasn't there for 6 weeks or a month. And it's not so much, the ability of Konaté, but can a centre-back lead? Can he organise a back four? Can he make the other players around him look better? Can he look after a young kid next to him and get him through the game by talking him through the game? I don't think Konaté could do that at all. But obviously he's good in the air. He's got good pace. I think he's always been prone to mistakes. But listen, centre-backs make mistakes. That's unfortunately the name of the game in that position. But I just think he's a good Premier League centre-back who's playing alongside one of the greatest centre-backs the Premier League has ever seen. So I think Liverpool obviously need to buy in that position, but not buy for competition. I think Liverpool need to buy a centre-back to play alongside Konaté, Virgil van Dijk next season.